My name is Jim Barrett. I play guitar in Bass Drum of Death, and I'm going to show you my gear. This is my Japanese Jazz Master. I purchased a couple of years ago. I think it is like mid-90s, I think, but I don't really remember. I'd have to take a look back at the receipts, but I got this guitar because I'd been playing a couple of different, I'd been playing like an old Silvertone, and it was kind of finicky, but I loved what I was getting out of it. Played a bunch of different guitars, and I realized that I needed a Rode kind of like warrior guitar. It's something that I could keep it in tune, I could kind of flail around or do whatever, and anything could happen, and it would kind of always be in tune and sound exactly how I wanted it to sound. So found a good deal on this, and got this a couple of years ago, and it's been kind of my go-to ever since. I did recently buy a Vox Mark 6 that I will start bringing out on tour when we start playing some of our like psychier stuff on our next record. But for now, this is what I've got, the Jazz Master. As far as like the setup with the guitar, I normally let it ride on the net pickup. Occasionally, if I want just a little bit different of a tone, I'll kind of toggle between the two. I'd rarely use the bridge pickup, if at all, if I'm honest. But this is kind of like what I've found in like tone, volume, kind of all the way up. It makes it simple and easy for me to remember, and it's kind of like it's good for me because it's like a bass that I can kind of like start with at any show, and I can always kind of find my way. Like the tone is just always kind of there for me, so I'm not having to play. There's no guesswork with what I'm doing with this thing. As far as the strings I play, a good friend of mine who runs a guitar shop in Brooklyn, his name's Jimmy Carbonetti. He showed me the Labella strings. They just made some new guitar strings that are like their original like 60s and 70s model that like Hendrix and everybody played like back in the day. So he hooked me up with those. I think they were like 11s. And I put those on for our European run, and like I didn't want to change them for this run because they were like kind of some of the best strings I've played in a while, and noticeably different and like easier to play, and they stayed in tune, held tune really well. But normally I'll do like D'Addario 11s, so I'm just kind of the standard D'Addarios. And then as far as tuning goes, most of everything I play in this band is standard. Occasionally, both John and I will drop down into drop D, but for the most part, it's all standard tuning. So as far as what I have on my pedal board, I've got the vocal pedal that John has as well. It's the VE20, but I do have it set up on this phrase loop. I've changed that now because normally I kind of just let it ride on a doubling effect with some slap and a little bit of reverb, but I've changed it to the phrase loop because on one song I have to do a vocal loop to kind of recreate what we did in the studio. So rather than like having to use a sample or something, I can actually do it in real time with this pedal. And so once I figured out the timing on that and everything, it was kind of really cool when that worked out, because we can keep it still simple, but it kind of adds a lot to the stage show, I think. So that was a new feature on this tour that I'm super pumped about. And as far as the kind of guitar in, what I'm using on my guitar, come into the standard tuner, but then I've used this Roland Space Echo RE20 made by Boss, and normally keep it right here at 5, and I kind of have it where it's a super short but a little bit long echo for a lot of some like the lead stuff, and then some of the like psyche droney parts that I'll do in this band. Then I have the TC Electronics Hall of Fame reverb, which I really love. I keep it on the spring, and it's nice and bright. It's got a great tone to it, and it's awesome paired with this, and really gives me also like a good like kind of washy, some like washy leads that I can do. Yeah, love this pedal a whole lot. It's very controllable. It's not, and very reliable for me as well. Got a smaller Pog by Electro Harmonics. It's like the Nano Pog, because I don't need the full capability and the full range. I only use it like occasionally, sparingly, on some lead parts. So this one was good because it could fit on my pedal board, and basically it's nice. Nice and efficient use of space. I recently got this TC Electronic Corona, and funny enough, during the pandemic I got it. So I was normally using a Electro Harmonics Chorus, so this one is a little bit different to kind of get used to. I've now got it kind of figured out. I've got the speed a little bit higher, but not too much depth, because it can really obviously changed the effect a whole ton, but I'm loving this one. It just took a little while to get used to. This is my kind of boost, my MXR. This is 78 distortion, like a little crunch on there. It's kind of the standard MXR distortion pedal, but they added this like little crunch button there, and it's just like a little bit different from the standard one. I think just with that added effect, really, or that added feature. But I really just use it for boost, for like an extra little, like, get me over the top on some leads. My main pedal that I use in this band is the OCD, the full tone. It's my go-to. I pretty much have that on just about the whole time. I'm not going to say the whole time because I don't know how that would make me look, but I mean, I really play that a ton. And what's cool is I did play that. We recorded a ton with it when we made this record, so kind of feels only fitting to use that throughout the live show. I'm using the Vox AC20, and I normally would play I play a Fender Deluxe, and I chain it with a JC120, which I found is really interesting kind of combo. So you get the solid state, you get the tubes, and I can kind of keep one a little bit more dry, and I can like kind of throw the verb on my Deluxe. Really love chaining those two, especially with this rig and this guitar. But the AC has honestly been great. I've used it throughout Europe, used it on this American run, and it's kind of great because it's actually a good middle point between having to chain those two amps together. This is kind of a solid way for me to kind of get a little bit of both of that with just one amp. So it's not my usual go-to because I have always had a hard time getting like great tone out of these ACs, but I've gotten used to it now. I've kind of gotten these settings kind of like where I wanted them, and so I've gotten it to where it's, you know, it's not super trebly. It's still pretty full, and especially like running through this pedal board with this guitar, I got it to where I really enjoy playing out of the AC as well. These are actually a bit adjusted, as you can see, because these were actually put on here by somebody else. But I use the top boost. I have the tone cut. I don't have it cut all the way off. I've got it right here. And I really like the top boost because it gives me a little bit more clarity over kind of like John's lower to mid, and so it helps put me over the top a little bit, and I think it helps the overall mix of the band in our live shows. I play just Dunlops, nylons, 88 millimeters, but when we were recording with Pat Carney at his studio, he had these Herco nylons that were like, and I stole a couple of them, but they're like the Jimmy Page pick and kind of like an old school pick from like British Invasion kind of like era. So I like grabbed a couple because these are my favorite because they have the grip on them. And they kind of have some give, so I don't break as many strings. But for some reason, I've just like always been, this kind of been my go-to. And then he had these, and I was like, all right, I gotta grab a couple. So there you are. So Jim Dunlop nylons 88s, but then if you can find them, the Hercos are the shit. Yeah, so you can follow us on Bassdrum of Death Instagram at Bassdrum of Death. Look up tour dates at bassdrumofdeath.com. And we'll have a new record out January 27th, 2023, with a bunch of tour dates throughout the States, starting in February throughout. So honestly, we'll be playing for the rest of the year with a couple of breaks, hopefully. But that's where you can find us, and I can't wait to see you out there.